In Estelle T. Griswold and Seeley Buxton v. Connecticut, the standard right to privacy was established. This case occurred in 1965 after Estelle Griswold, the executive director of the Planned Parenthood League of Connecticut, and Dr. Seeley Buxton, a gynecologist, were caught with a birth control clinic. At the time, it was illegal to sell or distribute materials that promoted contraception or abortion, to send literature or materials pertaining to these subjects through the United States Postal Service, or to obtain them from overseas. Griswold decided to set up her arrest in order to challenge the unfairness of the law. Catherine Rohraback and Thomas Emerson acted as the lawyers for Griswold and Buxton, while Joseph B. Clark was the lawyer for Connecticut. In the end, the court ruled 7-2 that marital relations between a husband and wife were a basic right to privacy older than the Bill of Rights. This case was not based on one clear amendment, but rather the implied right to privacy under a penumbra. The court opinion was written by William O. Douglas. Concurring opinions were written by Arthur Goldberg, Earl Warren, William Brennan, John Marshall Arlen II, and Byron White. The dissenting side was penned by Hugo Black and Potter Stewart.
In the years following the decision in Griswold v. Connecticut, the court expanded the fundamental right to privacy beyond marital circumstances. In Eisenstadt v. Baird of 1972, the court ruled that the state could not ban the use of contraceptives by anyone. The decision in Griswold v. Connecticut did not spark sweeping cries of outrage, as did many expansions of rights in the 1960s, but it set the court on the path to arguably the most divisive privacy decision, Roe v. Wade. In 1972, the court extended the right of privacy by striking down a Massachusetts law barring the sale of contraceptives to unmarried couples. This case was the prelude to Roe v. Wade. In 1973, the court ruled that the state could not ban most abortions. The question in the case of Roe v. Wade was this: did the government have the right to limit a woman's decision in regards to terminating her pregnancy? The justices concluded that the right to privacy was broad enough to encompass a woman's decision whether or not to terminate her pregnancy. However, once the fetus became viable outside the womb, the state could intervene so long as the woman's health and life was not endangered. In the years following Roe v. Wade, the court has reaffirmed the right to privacy, but accepted legislative limits on its practice. In Planned Parenthood v. Casey, in 1992, the court allowed restrictions on a woman's right to choose to terminate a pregnancy so long as the government did not unduly burden or interfere with her ability to get an abortion. Limits the justices have found to be acceptable include a 24-hour waiting period, requiring doctors to provide information discouraging women from having abortions, and restricting minors from seeking abortions without parental consent. Lawrence v. Texas of 2003 struck down a law that prohibited consensual same-sex relations. It is unclear today if justices will continue to increase limitations on the right to privacy. The right to seek an abortion has become a topic of increasing debate on the political agenda. The advent of technology and the increasing use of it in contemporary society has raised questions regarding the definition of privacy and what encompasses this right.
Estelle T. Griswold and Seeley Buxton v. Connecticut has had a major impact on modern society. By granting constitutional protection to organizations like Planned Parenthood fighting for reproductive rights, the Supreme Court paved the way for the normalization of contraception in America. Following the ruling, maternal and infant health have drastically improved, and infant death rates have decreased. In 1965, there were 31.6 maternal deaths per 100,000 live births, many resulting from illegal abortions. In 1996, the rate had been reduced by 76% to 7.6 maternal deaths per 100,000 live births. In 1961 to 1965, 20% of the births to unmarried women in the United States were unwanted. By 1995, only 6.5% of births to married women in the United States were unwanted. Because of legalized contraception and reduced unwanted pregnancy, women were able to pursue more opportunities, both personally and vocationally. In 1965, 26.2 million women participated in the U.S. labor force. By 1998, the number had risen to 63.7 million. The Griswold v. Connecticut ruling is also correlated to a decline in teen pregnancy. However, there are still over 1 million teen pregnancies in America every year, and 78% of these pregnancies are unwanted. Even with legalized contraception, 49%, or 3 million American pregnancies every year, are not intentional. Though there are still many sex-related controversies in modern American society, the Griswold versus Connecticut ruling is not likely to be overturned, as it has changed American norms to include the fundamental right to privacy, and by extension, contraception. The idea of contraception isn't as scandalous as it used to be. Griswold versus Connecticut has also influenced so many other court decisions, such as Roe versus Wade and Planned Parenthood versus Casey, that its ruling is now fairly integrated into common society. In conclusion, we agree with the Supreme Court ruling in Griswold versus Connecticut. What people decide to do in the privacy of their own homes should be of no concern to the federal government, especially when the matter involves education and/or safety. Birth control, abortion services, and other resources should in no way be limited. It's very dangerous to attempt to regulate education and limit individual choice.